Hi, my name is Justin. This is Nooks Cooks. Today I'm going to be cooking sisig. So let's start. Sisig is a popular pork dish in the Philippines and starting to become popular all across the world. Sisig is a type of pulutan, a type of food that you eat while you're drinking. Pulutan comes from the word pulot, which means to pick or pick up. One example of its popularity across the world is in Northern California. There is a restaurant, which used to be a food truck, well, it's still a food truck, called Señor Sisig, that started using sisig and putting it into tacos. Sisig has a long history dating back to 1732 when it first appeared in a dictionary by an Augustinian friar. It was a kapampangan to Spanish dictionary that defined sisig as a type of salad that consisted of green papaya, green guava, pepper, salt, garlic, and vinegar. Pork didn't come into the picture for sisig until about the early 20th century with the arrival and influence of Americans. So at that point, sisig became a boiled pork dish soaked in vinegar. Then fast forward to 1974. So Angeles, Pampanga, nearby Clark Air Force Base, there was an excess of different types of pork or different cuts of pork that were less desirable, like the ears and the face. So the story goes with Aling Lucing, she was grilling the pork and she came back and realized that it was burnt. So what she did, she took it off the grill, she chopped it up, added different ingredients, put it on a sizzling plate, and that's the sisig that most of us know today. So that brings us to the most modern versions of sisig, which started using different types of proteins like chicken and tuna, squid, and even tofu, amongst others. And now we're at the part that brings the most animosity to Kapampangans and people from Angeles. So in the city of Angeles, there's even an ordinance, Ordinance 405, that marks sisig or sisig, sizzling sisig babi, or sizzling sisig of pork, as a tangible heritage dish of the city. So there are the most modern versions that started using mayonnaise and egg. So the last time I was in the Philippines and I was talking to my uncle about all the different dishes that I was going to start cooking and presenting on here, he said, if you do sisig, no matter what, do not, I said, repeat, do not put mayonnaise or egg. That is not the Kapampangan way. So there's a lot of animosity, like I said, and I may or may not include that later in this video. Unfortunately, I haven't been to Aling Lucing's yet. On my most recent trip to the Philippines, we went to Angeles, and for lunch we went to Chef Sal's restaurant, 25 Seeds, and we had a bunch of beautiful food, and I'll share some of those pictures here. We ended up ordering sisig and we decided that it was just not necessary to go to Aling Lucing's for sisig that day and that we'd save it for another time. So I'll go there in the future. Here are all the ingredients of my sisig, starting with the pork. Like I mentioned, Filipinos were very resourceful, so we're starting with pork ear, pork face or mascara, and then I like a little bit more bite in my sisig, so this is pork belly. And then we have chicken liver. All of these are going to be boiled with garlic, bay leaves, and black peppercorns. And then a liver sauce is going to be made, or liver paste is going to be made with the chicken liver, with cane sugar vinegar, calamansi juice, or the Philippine native citrus, patis, or fish sauce, and then finished off with white onion and fresh calamansi. I forgot one ingredient, and that's because I don't really eat very many spicy foods. You can add Filipino chili, also known as siling labuyo, and if you can't find that, you can use a bird's eye chili, also known as Thai chili. Okay, truly the last thing, you can use butter or margarine for the sizzling plate. Start by dicing a white onion. Place all the pork in a pot, starting with the pork ears, the pork face, and the pork belly. Add in the garlic cloves, bay leaves, and whole black peppercorn. Fill the pot up with enough water to cover all the meat. Bring the pot to a boil and let it boil for 5 minutes, and then turn it down to medium heat and let it sit there for an hour. I started skimming off the impurities out of habit, but it's not really totally necessary because we're not going to be using the broth for this, only the meat. The pork belly was floating a little bit, so I used these chef's press presses to push them down. I'll leave a link in the description below. With 5 minutes remaining in the hour, I add in the chicken liver. At the end of the hour, remove all the meat. Using a slotted spoon or a strainer, remove the chicken liver and put that into a separate bowl. Now mash the chicken liver. Add in cane sugar vinegar. Then mash them together. Add in calamansi juice. Mix again. Add in fish sauce or patis. At this point, the liver paste or liver sauce is not the prettiest thing you've ever seen, but it'll all get mixed into the sisig, so don't worry. Lastly, add some freshly cracked black pepper. I think this is really important because black pepper is a big part of the flavor of sisig, or at least it is to me. Now it's time to start grilling all the meat, so I preheated the grill to 400 degrees Fahrenheit and then turned down the heat to medium heat. For the next 30 to 45 minutes, I constantly turn the pork. I know in the original story, Aling Lucing accidentally burned the pork, but I don't want to burn it. I want to develop a nice charred flavor and color without any off flavors because I want this to be crispy. It's time to start cutting up all the meat. I systematically start cutting it to smaller pieces by starting with long strips, and then I break it down further into smaller and smaller pieces. This is the pork ear, which can be a little tough to cut through, so I like using a meat cleaver with some extra weight to help cut through it. Here's the pork ear, which is fatty and gelatinous, so it's a little bit easier to cut through. Lastly, here's the pork belly. I carve out all the bones. We don't need that in this mixture. And why not help myself to a little snack while I'm at it? If you ever see somebody cutting up sisig in a video, you might see that they're using 2 cleavers at one time, so I wanted to give it a shot. I found that if I had to use all my strength to really cut this up, it was starting to make a mess, so I went back to 1 cleaver. And here's the size that I cut all the pork down to. Big enough that you can take a nice bite, but not small enough that you can't discern the different cuts of pork. Transfer all the chopped up meat into a bowl and cut down any of the stragglers. Now add in the liver sauce to the bowl of chopped pork. Mix it all in. Then add in the diced white onion. If you like your sisig spicy, this is where you would add the sliced chilies. Season with black pepper. Give it a taste. and then season with salt. Then cut up fresh calamansi. You want to cut these laterally or transverse. You don't want to cut them from pole to pole. You want to cut it against all of the wedges so you can see all the different wedges after it's cut open. Now to put it all together, this is a sizzling plate. I didn't show it, but I heated this up on my wok burner to get it ripping hot. But no matter how hot the sizzling plate is, I found that it was not enough to heat up the sisig all the way through. So before I put the sisig onto the sizzling plate, I heated it up in a cast iron skillet. Hot take, I think the sizzling plate is purely for effect, a beautiful effect, but an effect nonetheless. One last thing, I forgot to put butter or margarine, which is traditionally used in the Philippines, directly onto the sizzling plate. But I think this is really optional. It adds a lot of extra richness, but not necessary. Then I finish it off by adding the fresh calamansi slices. Okay, I gave in and I made an additional version with mayonnaise. I used Kewpie mayonnaise here just so we could see how it turns out. And then crack the raw egg on top. Can't forget the calamansi. Then mix it all together to cook the egg all the way through while the sizzling plate is still hot. And you're done. Both versions of sisig are ready, and it's now time to give them a taste. On the left, we have the traditional with no mayo and egg, and on the right, we have mayo and egg. So sorry, Tito, I'm just doing it, for the video so we can show the differences and how they taste. And like I mentioned before, sisig is a traditional pulutan or a drinking food, so usually this is what you'd find yourself drinking in the Philippines, either a red horse beer or a Sandmig light beer. I'm by myself at home filming this, so I'm not going to be drinking by myself because that's sad. I did have this over the weekend with some friends and family, so we did enjoy a little bit of these, but now it's time to give these a taste. Okay, first we're going to put the calamansi on top. The calamansi have little seeds in them, so you want to take a fork, because the seeds are bitter. Take the fork, put it over like this. Oh, some seeds fell through because this one's small. But to minimize the seeds, take that. Like so. Let's do the other one while we're at it. Calamansi, and this will give it some nice acid or additional acid because that liver sauce had some acid. Okay. Mix it up. Oh yeah, and because this was on a sizzling platter, a little bit of a crust has developed on the bottom. That's how you know it was really hot, and that'll give some nice texture to the sisig. And then I'll do the same over here. And you can see the egg is cooked all the way through on this one. Okay, let's start with the traditional one. Oh, I forgot to mention also, because this is a pulutan, you can eat this with or without rice. If you're out drinking with friends or family and you're just sitting doing karaoke, you might not have rice with you and just have all these dishes served or ready, and you don't have rice, you can eat them by themselves. So, mga tamo, let's eat. So, we had some parts of the pork that you typically might not eat, and honestly, you can't tell at all. It just tastes like a beautiful porky flavor. You have a little bit of that liver taste, but not in an overwhelming metallic kind of way. So there's so much contrast in this dish because you have the umami of the pork and the fish sauce, and also the saltiness from the fish sauce, but you have the acid from the vinegar and the calamansi. So it's so well balanced, so many things going on in such a humble dish, and born out of necessity or born out of being creative. And then here we have the one with egg and mayo. I use Kewpie mayo, so I know that's gonna make it a little bit saltier and definitely a lot richer. So, magantama, let's eat. Okay. As expected, this is really rich. I think personally for me, I think it overpowers the flavor of the pork and you don't really get to enjoy the pork flavor. It's good, don't get me wrong, it's very delicious, and if this was offered to me, I would eat it every single time. But if I had to choose, I would choose the one without the mayo and egg. There you go, Tito. This is the one that I would choose. This really lets you taste the pork and all the different ingredients, whereas the egg and the mayonnaise are just overpowering, and maybe I could have put less, but I think either way, it takes away from the pork flavor, that like the whole reason for this dish. So either way, both manyaman, but I think if I had to choose, I would choose this one. Hi everyone, thanks again for watching. I really appreciate each and every one of you. And if you made it this far in the video, leave a comment down below whether you're team mayo and egg or not team mayo and egg. And remember to like and subscribe. Peace!